Hi, Richard.
Hello there.
Good. I thank you for taking your time out to do this. And
Sure.
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm Glenn Lambden, Southern California guy also. Started training jujitsu at 53, earned a black belt at 65, and I decided to write a book that encourages the underlying idea is I just want to encourage others to stay on the mats for life. And that's kind of what the goal of the book was. The book was not intended to be a how-to because I think at my age, that would be impossible to be applicable to everybody. But it was just more of just kind of the roadmap that I used and am continuing to use, and that has evolved over the 14 years I've been training. And so the manuscript is finished with the exception of the last chapter, which I've asked several people that are not young studs anymore, if they would be willing to discuss what it is that they have done to stay on the mats and what it is that they do to encourage their students to stay on the mats for life. And the reason I say that is I really believe in the benefits that jujitsu offers, not only just health and fitness, but mental health and just from a societal standpoint, there's just so much value in it.
Right.
So,
Of course.
and with your experience, and I certainly enjoyed your book. I found it fascinating,
Thank
um,
you.
and I just felt that you have a lot that you could offer if you're willing to share it.
Absolutely. That's why I wrote it.
Yeah, yeah. It's for me this, if I print 100, 200 copy, I have no idea how many. But it was more, it's just more, I just hopefully somebody will read it, can grab a few nuggets out of there and encourages them to stay on the mats and hopefully get the same enjoyment from jujitsu that jujitsu's given to me. And that was kind of the intention behind the whole thing.
And that's when I wrote my book, I had no idea how many books we were going to sell.
Right.
And, I mean, like my first goal was like, man, if I can just sell 100 books, and then we started selling. And then I set my first goal. I said, okay, well, I'm going to set my goal of like 1,000. And then we hit 1,000, and I said, okay, my next goal is 5,000. I said, okay, we hit 5,000. So right now we're, you know, somewhere in between 6 and 7,000.
Wow.
And the market is, I mean, jujitsu. There's so many people doing jujitsu, but you have a different reason to stay on the mats. And what I wanted to, help people to find out, jujitsu in this country is relatively new, and hardly any people, especially young people, they don't know the origins of it,
Right.
of how it started in California. So that's you know so when I talk to people, and sometimes when they don't even know the name Horian Gracie,
Right. Right.
I'm going, wait a sec, he's the guy you're on the mat. He's the reason.
Right. Yeah.
So I think anything to help somebody to stay on the mats and do this is a good thing,
So
because I
if
like the way jujitsu is headed right now.
I'm sorry,
I said I don't like the way the the jujitsu is headed.
uh, how is that? You mean
Well,
just like a sport?
it's headed too much sport,
Right.
and the way people train there, it's a lot of physicality,
Right.
and the body's not made. I mean, it people train for it like it's high school wrestling,
Right.
and high school wrestlers have a short life. Not everyone can do that. There's a few guys that can do it and their bodies will hold up, but you don't see a lot of guys doing this. And and if people continue to do it, they're going to have injury, they're going to want to walk away, they're just, they don't find it enjoyable, and to make every role like their last role.
Right. Have you noticed, and I actually write a chapter on making your jujitsu enjoyable, because I think that's probably, one of the most important things to keep on to staying on the mats forever, even when, you might be hurting. But have you found that over the years that your jujitsu has evolved from being less aggressive to maybe more, what I call being more protective, so that you're not getting hurt?
Oh no, I'm still aggressive. I'm,
Are you? Oh, yeah, yeah.
no, one of the things that I remind people is I said, look, jujitsu was introduced to me as a martial art and a self-defense. It's not a self-offense, it's a
Right,
self-defense.
right.
So, you know, I mean, I know a lot of guys in the jujitsu community, and one of the things, guys that are younger than me, because I'm 72, and I talk to guys that are late 50s, and I'm not mentioning any names, but they say get on top and stay on top and attack, attack, attack. It's like, wait a minute, that it's there. If you get a finishing move out of a defense when you're defending yourself, great. But one of the things that, because I had the opportunity to be around the Gracie family and specifically L.U. Gracie, he just wanted to stay alive. He just wanted to preserve himself. If I can defend myself against a bigger person, I call that a win.
Me too. Yeah.
And I was talking to a student the other night, and I was telling about an experience that I had with a one of my former students, and this is going back about, gosh, 15, 16, 17 years ago. I was in my mid 50s. This guy wrestled at NYU for 4 years. He was the top of the top at NYU, but he was a small guy. He was 5'5", weighed 150 pounds. And he came into class, and I told everybody, I said, look, don't try to be aggressive with this guy. He's well conditioned. I said, you just need to relax and defend. And they said, the guy doesn't get tired, And so anyways, against my better judgment, I rolled with the guy for a few minutes. He was 21 and I'm 55. We rolled, and the guy was all over the place and fast, but he couldn't finish me. He couldn't mount on top of me. And, after the time was up, it was, he didn't catch me. I didn't catch him.
Right. That's a win.
But I called that a win.
Absolutely.
So, and I said, look, if you can defend yourself against somebody like that,
Right.
without jujitsu, I would have been done.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I look at it the same way. If I can defend myself or minimize the beating that I would have to take, that's
Yeah,
a win. And
right.
yeah. So, I have found I'll be 68 here in a few weeks, and started at 53, earned black belt at 65. And I have found, like, when I first started at 53, I had been training Muay Thai, and actually had just come back from Thailand, where I fought there, trained and fought there, which was a pretty late age. Um, and so when I started jujitsu, I was still used to being very aggressive, but fast forward to maybe when I turned 60, I started going, I'm getting injured too much. So I started playing more of a defensive game. And then maybe at around 65, it evolved again to where I'm just trying to play a protective game. If I roll, I just don't want to get hurt, because I want to be able to roll tomorrow or teach a class tomorrow.
Right.
Have you found, has your evolution of your jujitsu been the same, or when you encourage older uh, practitioners, do you try to get them to have their game evolve similar to what I'm experiencing?
Well, I have probably about four or five students that are in there. One of them is my age. The other ones are in their mid to late 50s. And I'm teaching one guy, well, actually two guys, but one guy in particular. He's, I think, 58. He's about my height. He's 5'10" roughly. And he's about just a little over 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And everything he does, he just forces everything, and he's strong. And I said, look, that's great. But I said, are you enjoying yourself? Well, I like to work out. I said, yeah, but when you do anything, what are you learning? Because you're just taking the guy and you're kind of manhandling and pushing him around, you're getting on top, and you drive your forearm against their neck. I said, you're not really trying to finish. I said, so that's great if you're bigger than somebody. But I said, do you want to learn? Do you want to enjoy what you're, yeah. So all I've been doing when I work with him is just get him to relax, just like calm down, calm. And I hardly show him anything new. I just show him what he already has seen, like Horian did with me. I mean, basically, when Horian would do a seminar, he would never show them anything new. He would just take what they had and make it better.
Right.
And when I have guys, because of my book, I've had black belts come to me. I teach a class. One of the first things I do is I go, let me feel your collar choke. And they do the collar choke, and I feel how much force they're using. I'm under 140 pounds. So when they use a collar choke on me, and I'm going, and then do a triangle, they do a rear naked choke. And I said, okay, great. I said, would you do that kind of a choke? Would you demonstrate that if I was a 10-year-old boy or girl? Oh, no, I would be much easier. I said, okay, then why don't you do that with me? I said, I do the same choke whether you're a 10-year-old kid or you're an 80-year-old. It doesn't matter. You focus on technique you're showing. I'm not resisting. You're just showing a move.
Right.
Just for the technique without having to use power or anything. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people just to calm down. I mean, when I first learned to choke, Horian would grab me by the arm and just like relax.
Right.
And just to get them. And if the teacher is not relaxed, and that's one of the things I've seen, guys come over and they said, yeah, my students are, and I said, I understand why. You're demonstrating on me and you're not relaxed. So how do you expect them to relax if you can't relax?
Right.
So it's changed to just like relax, show the technique, and just focus on them, just saying, hey, breathe, relax, just don't worry. If you tap, you tap.
Right.
You're going to learn, though. That's the thing. You have to put your ego aside. And I realize how hard it is at times.
Sure.
So, yeah, my jiu-jitsu has definitely changed.
Right. And are you finding too, it's more that you feel like you have to protect yourself because of
Yes.
limitations that come with age? Because
Yeah.
I know I ask only because I certainly have, and I know I don't roll nearly as much as I used to. Just because I want to be able, if I go to all the open mats that I used to, I won't be able to maybe walk the next day or walk very easily. And
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'll do more like positional sparring than I do
right.
sparring. I mean, right now it's kind of put a limit because I have a hernia and I have to get surgery for it. So, I'm having a little straining, issue that I don't want to make any worse. So I'm very, and also too, I mean, as I get older, I'm a light guy. I have a clean diet. I want to make sure that I'm on the mat in 10 years.
Right.
And I can't do that, and through my book, I talked about the therapy that I do, that I have done to me. And it's kept me surgery free other than the hernia that I'm going to get. But I've never had any neck or shoulder or back or knee because I've been able to take care of it myself and walk around pain free.
Right.
So, but that's, like I go on these groups on Facebook, And people are asking, well, I've been doing jujitsu now for 8 weeks and I find myself really sore. I said, you shouldn't be sparring yet. Just learn, relax. And, I say the same thing over and over again.
Right.
But why aren't there teachers doing this? These guys that are older, why aren't they saying, hey, man, calm down, just learn the technique? There's no beginning curriculum in most places.
Right. I found that too. And in places where I've taught in the past, like I would put a curriculum together and nobody really seems to want to stick with it, which for whatever reason, I mean, it's the academy owners, it's their deal, but
Right.
I like the idea of a very programmed start, especially for beginners. I found at some point, um, everybody has to learn the fundamentals, and then they're going to start, uh, evolving to what works best for them or their body type and
Right.
all that. But we all have to learn the fundamentals, and
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
So with that kind of an attitude, then it comes down to just having people learn to relax. And especially as we get older, there's no need to be competitive anymore. If you at times, if you want to do a little bit, great. But you cannot do this every time every time you roll. Because I'm friends with Hiran and Henner, and I go to their school a lot. And even Hiran is like, he's the cream of the crop. I mean, he is, and he preaches the same message. He said, look, I want to enjoy this. His whole thing was keep it playful. But when he goes, I mean, he goes. I mean, he is so smooth. Have you ever watched Hiran? There's a video. It is Hiran and about 20 people, where all he's doing is he's letting them mount on top of him with no gi and trap and roll. All he does is the trap and roll.
I don't know if I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh man, YouTube it. Hiran Gracie trap and roll.
Okay.
And if you can't find it, send me a message. I'll send it to you. It is such an art because he does it. He does it so as time. I think, and I've seen a lot of jujitsu guys. I think when it comes to the trap and roll, he is the top of the top. I don't think there's anyone better than him at the trap and roll.
Right.
I mean, you can mount on top of him. I don't care who you are. You're going to get rolled.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him do, and everyone thinks, okay, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep my weight this way. I'm going to neck hug. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Doesn't matter. He traps and rolls everybody, and he does it with just because he's trained this. I mean, that is an art.
Right.
That's the art in martial arts.
I've also found that as I've gotten older and with more limitations, my appreciation of the art has really increased. And that tends to be, I think, my focus now is um, practicing the art, teaching the art, and agree. I agree with what you said. I'll often tell my students, don't show me how strong you are, show me how technical you are. And
Yeah.
I think it's that technical aspect that is showing the appreciation for the art.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's just an age thing that happens, or if maybe as you progress farther in the jujitsu journey, you appreciate.
Well, I think that I've had for the last 25 plus years, I haven't taught at a jiu-jitsu school. I taught at Krav Maga, and right now I'm teaching at one place that's kind of a mixed martial arts. Although the owner is a black belt in Krav Maga, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I teach for him. And then I teach at this other school that offers other things. So I teach jiu-jitsu, but it's not a jiu-jitsu school.
Right.
And so I've had two or three guys that have hung with me, and both of them are two of the guys for sure. One guy is still with me right now. He's he just got his purple belt about a year ago. He's been with me for about 8 years. And the guy is just one of those students that, has just learned to be defensive. He's 30, just turned 38.
Mm.
And he's 5'7", weighs about 150 pounds. And he's about as technical as you get. He always takes the new student that comes in and works with them. He's a really good teacher, a really good practitioner. And he's defensive. Like when a guy gets really aggressive with him, he'll just play with them until they get tired and then he attacks. And that to me is when you have that kind of patience, you're really learning. It's saying a lot about you and the art because he's confident in what he can do.
Right. Yeah.
And so, the guys that have stuck with me long enough, that's what happens to them. Because if they're going to stick with me, they're going to catch a bunch of shit from me if I see them doing anything other than that. So,
right. As they should. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So if you were to, I mean, your older students, what would be your advice to them if they say my goal is to stay on the mats for life? What would be your advice? I mean, other than the obvious, I think we all know, we need to tap early and choose our training partners wisely, and I just consider that those are the obvious things. But is there like something that you found that has really helped you, or that you've passed on to your students that are
Yeah.
old?
If you ask any student that's ever taken my class in the last 20 years, what's the one word that I use the most? They're all going to tell you the same thing. And that word is relax.
Relax. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Even when people think they're relaxed, they're not.
Right. Yeah.
So it's that I'm constantly saying relax. And I remember hearing Horian, say calm, constantly, just calm, calm, calm. And, the thing is, as you get older, you want to stay on the mat, you're going to have to relax or learn to relax. Do some breathing techniques that help you to stay calm. Horian told me a long time ago, and I found it to be true. You can find out so much about a person just by teaching them what their mannerisms are, their language, and how relaxed they are.
Mm.
And you see somebody who's uptight, or you're starting to show them a few things, and you tell them about how they put their hand when they're grabbing something, and maybe you've shown them 5 or 6 times, and when you show them here and you correct their position, they say things like, "Oh, I always do that." I go, "Always? You just learned."
Right.
So that's kind of an ingrained thing about how much they screw up. So I tend to repeat it and say, "Hey, it's okay. Forget, first of all, always. If you were doing this for 5 years and you did it like this, I would say always.
Right.
But when you just learn, so you learn a lot about somebody just from being there. And so when you can have somebody learn to relax and remind them, so you're gonna be good. Sorry, I had to check my text.
No worries. No.
Okay.
When I was in Thailand training, the Thais would always tell me the same thing in Thai: "Sabai, sabai, sabai," which is relax, relax. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you look at anybody who's sparring, who's even like world class, they're flowing.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
but that takes practice.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you want to
So
get good at something, you have to practice. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Where
So
are you located?
I'm sorry, I'm in Sierra Madre, which is the small town next door to Pasadena. So I'm close to you.
Oh, really? Yeah. I actually just met a woman I was up at her place in Altadena.
Oh, yeah, just a few minutes from me. Yeah.
Do you have a school?
I don't own an academy. I teach, it's called School Jiu-Jitsu in Arcadia. And then when I retired 2 years ago, I started a veterans outreach program. We're an affiliate of what's called Veterans Jiu-Jitsu, and we teach veterans and first responders for free. So I have two different academies that donate the mat space, and me and some other guys will provide the training for free. And I have, a big bucket of gis and loan them out, and the idea is to help these guys that are struggling. Um, there's a camaraderie in the military that's very similar in jujitsu. And so all I do is really just provide a platform for them to show up, have something in common, and then they start networking with the idea it's trying to help them assimilate to civilian life as easily as possible. So that keeps me on the mat 4 days a week. And at my age, that's about the max that I can do. And then I travel a lot and teach. I just got back from a month in Europe, teaching on American military bases, several German academies, and then I taught at the BJJ Globetrotters, their Estonia spring camp 2 weeks ago. Taught a seminar there. So, but like I say, that's about the extent that I can do.
Right,
It's
of course.
Yeah,
So I have a question for you.
sure,
You've read my book.
yes.
So when you go to teach, how many people have you told about my book?
Well, I can think of a few incidences, and I'll tell you why. Um, the part of your book where you say jujitsu saved your life, or at least of those. I would One of the guys that I was, Orlando Sanchez. You familiar with Orlando?
No, I'm not.
Orlando was ADCC champion. He received his black belt 4 or 5 years. And same thing, he would often say jujitsu saved his life from drug addiction. And sadly, Orlando died last year from a drug overdose.
Ah,
Orlando was one of Alberto Crane's students. And so that's how the conversation where I was talking about your book, where we were talking about how the value of jujitsu, more than just the mat time, but what it provides, um, off the mats also. And I can remember one conversation in Estonia. I had one guy talking, and at our gym. So after I read your book, we have a library, and that's where I donated your book to the library there. And anybody that's read it, we've talked about it. And
appreciate that.
oh yeah, it's I love the history. I read Drysdale's book. I don't know if you read that, which was
Yeah, he sent me both of his books.
the one the opening the closed guard, which was a very interesting, different than anything that I had ever heard before. So it was
Yeah,
an interesting perspective also. But the history and what you offered that nobody else had yet that I had ever come across is how did the Gracie family really take jujitsu and give it to the whole world? And um, for me, I actually had the chance to meet Henzo one time, and just thank you, Henzo, to what your family has given to me, because it's a gift that I would never have gotten anywhere else. So
right.
yeah,
And realizing, it's nice that Henzo and even the Machados and all the rest of the Gracies are doing this. But the one person who really, because he's so, I forgot the word, like people have such a feel about Horian that a lot of it's overshadowed, but it was, he made this whole thing possible.
right. Yeah,
By him coming to the US, he allowed other people, to come to the US and follow him.
right.
And, without him, it we probably wouldn't be talking.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's, the guys that followed up. I mean, Henzo, is a excellent fighter, and he's a very good teacher. And, just like the Machados, I've been lucky enough to have private classes with so many of the guys, you know, and spent time with Hickson and, you know, all the rest of them. It's been quite amazing. But Horian is the guy that made this whole thing happen.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. Just the global impact. I've been teaching over in Germany the last few years, a couple of times over the last few years, and to see the explosion of jujitsu there. I mean, they're years behind American jujitsu, but they're catching up quickly.
Right.
It's amazing to see that global explosion happening. So we're about to run out of time. The Zoom only gives me so many minutes, I think 40 minutes, and they just popped up. We're running out of time. May I have your permission to, when I do the book, I'd like to give links to your book. May I have your permission to do that? So
Absolutely.
there, and anything else that you're doing or promoting, just let me know. I'd love to put links to it.
No, just you know, if you put richardbresler.com,
Okay.
and that will give you a person my website, which has a direct link to my book. And right now, you know, I've been asked to do seminars all over the US, and I'm turning, you know, I turn a lot of people down, and for various reasons. One, you know, I'd lost my mother last year, and my focus was to be around her as much as I could. And now that she's gone, shortly afterwards, you know, I developed a hernia, so I don't want to do any traveling. I want to, you know, get this thing healed, and then I want to do some more, find a way. And I've been talking to people about this. Is that a lot of people who know about my book are people that know about, you know, the Gracie family. But here, I've sold, I don't know, maybe 6,500 books, somewhere around there. And how many people worldwide are doing jujitsu?
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands, millions. Who
Hundreds
knows?
of thousands, right? So I have a huge market. I want to find a way to reach that market.
Right, right. I
So
wish I'm not a marketing genius. I don't know, but what I'll do, the Zoom may cut us off, but what I'll do, because we're close by, I'll at some point, once I have these chapters finished, I'll meet you for lunch or something and get you some copies and
yeah, well, I don't drink coffee, but we can meet. I'll get
okay.
you my I'll send you my number.
Great. That I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I
My
appreciate
pleasure.
your wisdom and promoting the art and I look forward to another decade or so on the mats.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
My pleasure.
Have a good day. Okay.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.